Weirding Way Media.
Hello and welcome back to the Filmumentaries Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Benning, and in this episode, it's landing at a very appropriate time of year because today I'm joined by the writer and the artist behind the brilliant new graphic novel, Lucas Wars. That's writer Laurent Hopman and artist Renaud Roche. And if you're currently wondering what on earth to buy the film nerd in your life, or indeed what to put on your Christmas list, this might just be the answer. Lucas Wars tells the extraordinary behind-the-scenes story of how Star Wars was made, but crucially it does it through the emotional journey of George Lucas himself. It's not just about the tech and the effects, it's about doubt, pressure, friendships, studio politics, sheer bloody-mindedness and persistence, and it's all told through this beautifully cinematic graphic novel format. So in our conversation we talk about how the book came together, Laurent's background as an entertainment journalist, Renaud's journey through animation and storyboarding into comics, the mammoth research process behind the book, and how you make boardrooms, film sets, and creative disagreements feel genuinely dramatic on the page. We also get into Spielberg, Alan Ladd Jr., ILM, Fox, and the very real personal toll the film took on Lucas at the time. So, as I said, it's me, Laurent and Renaud, but we're also joined by my friend and super talented BBC radio producer, Mark Berman. I'm working with Mark Berman on a project at the moment, like I haven't got enough projects. Unfortunately, Mark didn't join the call with great success. He kept dropping in and out. He had a lot of echo. So, for the most part, Mark is not in this conversation, but towards the end, you'll hear another voice chime in with a few questions, and that's Mark. So I thought I'd just let you know that up front. So here's my chat with Laurent Hopman and Renaud Roche, and I'll be back at the end for a bit more jabbering on. Laurent, Renaud, thanks for joining me on the podcast. You kindly sent me this book some months ago now, kind of pre-release, and it was exciting to get and see before for a lot of people. And I've been through it a bunch of times now, and I went through it again this morning just to remind myself of how much I enjoyed it. How did this all begin for you? Like, you're clearly both fans. Let's set the scene. When was the first kind of inkling of doing this project?
Well, basically the whole idea was to tell the crazy story of how Star Wars got made, but through the eyes of George Lucas. There aren't many movies in history that have that kind of impact, but what really hooked us wasn't just the movie itself, it was the human side of the story. Like how does this young guy, barely 30, super shy, introverted, how does he take on something so massive? What doubts was he dealing with? What impossible obstacles did he face? And how did he push through it all? When people talk about the original Star Wars, they almost always bring up the technical stuff, the groundbreaking effects, and all that. And that stuff, of course, is incredible. But what was really interesting was the human drama, the psychology of the people making it happen. Who are they? What were they like? And mostly what drove them to do it. So I was personally convinced that there was more than enough there to make the behind the scenes, the story feel almost as epic as the movie itself. And George Lucas also as a character is just fascinating. Is the ultimate underdog, the last person you would expect to pull such a huge movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's not your typical hero at all, is he? I mean, he's not like this bold, charismatic, big character. He couldn't be more kind of shy and retiring. But this, it's kind of amazing this story has not been told before. I always think when I see something like this, it's one of those, why didn't I think of that moments? Because because it's such a good idea to tell it in this visual form. But tell me a little bit about your background, Renaud. Like, were you approached by Laurent by this? And what is your background in animation and storyboarding and all of that stuff?
Yes, actually, I was saying that I was actually working in the storyboarding team at Illumination in
Hmm.
Paris when Laurent and Julien, the publisher, contact me. And at first, I said the same as you. I said, "Oh, it's weird that nobody had this idea before." And and I guess the first thing I said too is, are you not worried about Disney attorneys or something like that, you know?" And and then and when I discovered the script, it was like obvious, you know, that the script Laurent have done was very good and
Mm.
a very good yes, synthetic of all those stories and but yes, it's actually my first, very first comic book, which was a big jump for me because even if I draw since I am a child, I was dreaming as a child to become a comic book artist. At some point, I diverged a bit because I discovered feature animation when I was teenager. So I focus more on this. I went to Gobelins in Paris, which is a feature animation school. Back in the days, it was really focused on traditional animation. I spent 2 years only here, and it was really like the drone traditional animation, as you can imagine, which was really what I loved because it was drawing, you know, and that's the thing. When we went out with our diploma in 2002, it was the big shift in the industry when they start to do more and more CGI movies. And let's say I tried. I went to a special effect company called Buff Company in Paris. I stayed yeah 1 year something like that. At first, it was to be hired. So they teach us their own 3D animation software, which was very clumsy, I must say, at that time. You know, it was
Mm-hmm.
like not intuitive at all. And but we were originally hired to work on the Luc Besson animated features called Arthur, and it spent a lot of time waiting. We spent a lot of we wait a long time for the production to start. So I was working, you know, on commercial, other movies, sometime some clips. It was fun, you know, but I was not drawing. And
Yeah.
it was a drama for me because I chose animation because I wanted to draw movies in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not prepared to let the drawing to just keep the animated part of this craft. So I went away and I focused on storyboard directly because I really loved also the mise en scène and all the cinematic language, of course. And then I worked for a long time for commercial because this is where actually the money was back then. And then after I worked a bit for cinema, illustration work, so some illustration for magazines too. Different kind of project, and finally illumination, and then Les Guerres de Lucas.
And always it sounds like creating that kind of visual language, that language of cinema, and it's obviously paid dividends because there's some
Hmm.
fantastic moments in the book. Just rewinding a little bit for you then, Laurent. I believe you're a entertainment journalist.
Yes,
Um,
I was an entertainment journalist for more than 20 years, mostly covering movies, TV shows, and music. I was also a magazine publisher, also in the entertainment world. But I've always wanted to try my hand at script writing, and it happened with this project.
Yeah, and writing an article for an entertainment publication is very different to writing a script, let alone a script for a graphic novel, because there has to be a certain conciseness, involved in writing for a graphic novel. You have to convey the message in a very short amount of writing. How did you go about kind of getting that discipline, Laurent, to do that? Were you inspired by other graphic novels?
Yes, I'm an avid comic book reader, so I know the language. But as you said, concisiveness is the main thing in comic books. You have a limited number of panels, obviously, so you have to get everything in, and you have to anticipate the drawings. What will the drawing convey, and what kind of information will it give? So yes, you have to be very careful with words. You cannot write too many words, include too many words, because people don't really like to read when they're reading a comic book. With graphic novels, you have a little bit more freedom. You can have longer text, but and balloons. But overall, you have to be very careful with words.
Yeah,
And
and
if he write too many words, I tell him, no, we don't need this. Look, the picture is enough. Look, my drawing, say it all, so we can remove this. And he always agrees.
That's
so
one
was
of
there
the.
was there direction in there, Laurent, from you that said, Lucas might say this, but at this point he's downhearted, he's pissed off, he's lonely. Did you have
Yes.
those words in there?
Yeah,
Well, the way
yeah,
the script is that there's always a breakdown of what we must see in the panel, the essentials, and then quite often, well, that's one of the flaws of the script writers in the comic book world. They tend to write too many words, so the artist usually begs for less, and most of the time. The drawing is explicit in some ways, so you can cut off a little bit of text because you can see
it's
the
enough.
action. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that great bit, just one that springs to mind where I think Gary Kurtz is talking to George about Mark having burst a blood vessel in his eye from the trash compactor, and then you've got that lovely shot of looking at the back of George, looking at the empty set there. And I know that photograph. I remember seeing that photograph for the first time years ago, and yeah, the way the light's coming in, and George's body language, he's kind of hunched down, and you can see he's kind of feeling dejected. I think you communicate all of that stuff really, really well throughout the book. And I thought I knew everything about Star Wars. I don't know if you know much about me, but I spent 4 years making a thing called Star Wars Begins, which was a behind the scenes, everything from behind the scenes that I could find, and I put it in a timeline. And I was reading through this and going, I didn't know that detail, and I didn't. I knew that I knew that Lucas had suggested John Williams, for instance. I didn't know it was like a matter of months away from the release date when that happened, and it was scored so late. So I think you've done a really good job at kind of conveying the overall feeling of what it must have been like for George there, but also there's really nice moments of specificity in there as well. What did you do for your research then, Laurent, in terms of trying to put this story together? Were you just trying to get hold of everything you could, old magazines, books, documentaries?
Yes, it was really a painstaking process to read and get to hear or watch everything that's available. And as we all know, there's a huge amount of documentation on Star Wars. So it was a long process to get it all in order to synthesize everything and try to give this version of what really happened.
Yeah, and sometimes you find in that behind the scenes lore, you find different versions of stories, you find different details. I think there's one you mentioned where Spielberg says it was 2.5% that they shook hands on over Close Encounters of Star Wars, but it was actually 1%. And it's interesting to include those details. But how did you go about finding the truth in that case? Did you just see what was most prevalent back from a particular time, or did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back to the original interviews was paramount, and uh, as you said, when you read all the different anecdotes and the way they change through time, and memory doesn't serve
Yeah.
people well.
And they
So
reinvent their own histories, right?
Oh
exactly,
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
and it becomes legend, and so you have to
yeah.
go back to the beginning, and they gave pretty candid and spontaneous interviews
Mm.
back then. So that's where I drew from most.
Yeah. And Renaud, like you look at the script, ultimately, it's a lot of people talking in empty buildings and talking in offices
Mm.
and all of those things. How did you go about kind of making those moments visually dramatic and emotionally engaging?
That was a challenge for sure, and that's where I really dive into my storyboarding knowledge because um, that's the good point. When you are doing storyboard for cinema, you are supposed to draw everything in every angle on every framing possible because you are at the service of a director generally which possibly has a very precise uh, um, direction in his head. So I was able really to play a lot with that, and of course most of the time when there was those guys in suits in offices, I tried to put some visual diversity to not draw every time the same angle, and also it is of course. Uh, there is a narrative purpose, some basic rules, like if you put a low angle on someone, he gets more menacing and
Mm.
charismatic, and
Hmm.
high angle is the opposite, stuff like that. And
Hmm.
sometimes also I had fun because I guess it is obvious when you for the fans that know the movie well, but I framed some of the reunion cases as the Death Star meeting room, reunion room. For
Yeah.
example, sometimes there is a really a fun play. To make to do a visual parallel with that because
Yes.
yeah obviously the Imperials of the book are the Fox guy basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so there was something very funny to explore there, and you play with the light also. You can put something more dark sometime, and yeah, it was really an obsession for me to really as possible. To not redraw always the same type of frame and voila.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I don't know what age you guys are. I mean, I'm 49. How old are you, Laurent?
55.
55, and you, Renaud?
And pretty soon 45.
Well, I just want the reason I was asking that is because anybody who's been sort of invested in this world for any length of time, um, of my age and Laurent's age, you're a little bit behind Renault, knows those stories, knows those legendary stories about George showing the screening to his friends, to De Palma and
Mm,
Milius and Spielberg and so on. But I think it's very easy for the sort of later generation of moviegoers, particularly people that are into the big Marvel studio
mm,
movies, that these films are kind of crafted in a very commercial way, and they're kind of designed down to the tiniest, the nth degree. Whereas
mm,
with Star Wars, and I think you've conveyed this well in the book, it kind of appeared out of nowhere, and it was this group of rebels, if you like, kind of getting together and doing the best they could in very, very difficult circumstances. And I think that's communicated really, really well. And that relationship between Spielberg and Lucas is going to be important in your next book, I understand. We could talk about that in a minute. But just having, you know, Spielberg's ear there and him saying to him, "I think this is going to be great." The rest they don't understand it, but trust me, this is going to be it. You can see those relationships forging in the book as well, and I think you've done that really nicely. Was that something you enjoyed putting together?
Yes, we knew that the general public wasn't aware of the fact that all these great directors who are going to define the new Hollywood, they knew each other, they were friends, and they made this amazing group. So that's one of the things that people discovered with the book in France when it came out, the general public, because we reached out. We were very fortunate to reach out to a wider audience than the Star Wars fandom. So and all these people never knew about this group of friends. So it was great to show the start of this friendship between George and Steven Spielberg and all the other guys. It's incredible.
And I really like actually the narrative purpose. Spielberg in the book is like an archetypal character. Is the ally, obviously, a
Mm-hmm.
bit a bit like Alan Ladd Jr., of course,
Mm.
but he's a even more positive figure. He's always supporting. He's always enthusiastic, even when George is really down, and I think it helps to uplift the general story and uplift George at some decisive moment.
Yeah.
And there is trust, there is admiration, a bit of competition too,
Yeah.
especially in
Healthy
those years.
competition. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess the only I was thinking about that the other day. The only picture, the only drawing where is actually not smiling. It's when he has to postpone the after the smash of Star Wars. He has to postpone
The
close
release, yes.
encounter,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a few months. So he's a bit depressed, but he said, "How we can possibly show this movie now?" And well,
Yeah.
finally, it was
And
a
from
huge and great movie too.
It'd be an incredible what if to see them go up against each other. I saw Star Wars recently on a 35 millimeter print at the BFI here
Oh
in
yeah,
London,
the
and it
original.
and it was yeah, and it was honestly
Mm,
like time travel. You kind of
mm.
were reminded just what a quirky little movie it was in many ways, and you
Mm,
could see the gaffer tape and you could see the cables pulling the droids along and all of that stuff, but that had such a charm to it. I think Close Encounters it is visually a more striking film, and kind of
mm,
holds up better today probably visually. But I
mm.
was just going to go back, Laurent, to something you said about the general public, because you clearly had to have the general public in mind. If you want to make a book successful, of course, yes, you've got to appeal to those niche fans like me who pores over every detail and yet is still learning stuff from your book, but also you want to make it appealing to the general public as well. Is that something you had to think about during the writing process, and Renaud during the process of doing the artwork?
Yes, yes, we were hoping to reach out to a wider audience, so it was important to keep the story as easy to understand as possible. Mostly all the questions and the matters of the contracts and the relationship with the studio, which is crucial and essential to the story, but at the same time it can get boring very easily. So
Yeah.
it was a matter of keeping it simple and yet faithful.
Mm.
So that was one of the concerns, and also explain everything so that the general audience could follow the story when they don't have necessarily all the references.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I think just from an artwork point of view, I've just got it here. That cover is a really nice sort of poetic cover, because that's the bit of the film so many people always cite as their favourite moment when Luke is
Mm.
looking at the twin suns. You've got that wonderful
Yeah.
John Williams score. I saw in the back, because you've fantastically included not only a bibliography but some of your behind the scenes work, and there's that other cover that you considered at one point, which would
Yeah,
have had a very different feel. It's interesting how the
exactly.
cover has such an impact.
Yeah,
Talk me
yeah,
through
yeah,
that
and
decision.
the funny story is the original idea was the cover, which is at the end of the book, and of course it was the idea to do something more in a Drew Struzan composition style, even if the graphic style is very different.
Mm,
And and the thing is, I was almost done with this one when we discussed with Laurent. and Julien, the publisher, and they were having doubt. So at first I was a bit annoyed, of course, because the job was already done. But very fast I said no, no, but they're right. If this because the what became the cover, the true cover with the suns, it was already a case, and I guess almost the three-quarter of a page in the book, you know. So it was supposed to be a very important picture already, but and in color too, because it was such a pivotal moment in the story. It is ready when he's waiting for the Fox contract. He's about to shoot, but he cannot start. So it's really like looking at your destiny and reflecting of what will actually happen and to have hope that it will happen. So it matched very well actually. Looks destiny at this point, you know. And so and then yeah, we chose to focus on this to expand. And yeah, it was the best shows because as you said, it's symbolic, it's iconic. And there is also because in the book this is like a true picture. Like there is one son because it's basically like if George was
Yeah, in
waiting on the
Tunisia.
set,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
exactly. So we had the second son, of course, in the cover to really emphasize the surrealistic and to do like yeah, a mix with fiction and reality and behind the scene and to mix all of it in something yeah more powerful, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other things I love about the book is the way you've portrayed the characters within, you know, not only in terms of the writing, but visually as well. Because we all know what Harrison, Carrie, and Mark, and George, and, you know, Alec Guinness, Peter Cushing look like. But then you've got other people in there, you know, Richard Chew, Paul Hirsch is in there, Marcia Lucas is in there. Did you have to kind of go back and research like old photos from back in the day? Because there's not much of Marcia actually, is there, around?
Yeah, yes. You know that it's
Yeah.
quite hard for Marsha because, and not much, and most of them in a very crappy resolution too, which
Mm,
doesn't help to catch details. Hopefully, there was like a few that was more good, and but at some point, yeah, I tried to also create my own version of Marcia, of
yeah.
course. You know, she has most of the time the same haircut because it was more easy for me to draw her almost always the same and then of course this little pointy nose is very easy to 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 identify and also the general mood you know of the character and the fact that she's quite the opposite in terms of nature from George,
Mm,
and this is what's worked very well. But yeah, for every character, anyway, the challenge is that it was true people, and especially the actors that are very famous. Everybody knows their faces. So I had to synthesize, to simplify my style because this is I wanted to talk this before when you were saying about the general audience.
mm,
Um, my idea also was not to put too much details in the graphic styles because I wanted the reading to be very smooth, you know,
mm.
and this is a way also to be appealing to people that are not very focused on Star Wars. You need to hook them and then make them stay on your book until the end.
Yeah.
And this is also where my knowledge of narrative cinematographic language really helps, you know, and I guess it worked because a lot of people and readers was saying to us, "Wow, I make the mistake to start a bit late in my bed, you know, and I was not able to stop until the end, so
Yeah.
I went I would fall asleep very late because of you." So it was a very good review and a very good compliment because it meant that yeah, there was something. how to say that, coherent
Yeah.
in the way the graphic style match the narrative and the script, and all together make a pleasing reading experience, which was the very first goal. Yeah.
I remember reading Carrie's book for the first time, and
Yeah,
that was the first time I think it ever sort of been publicly admitted in a way. And I think she actually
exactly.
ran it past Harrison, and he said like, whatever, just it's your book kind
Exactly.
of thing. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Star Wars is a very sort of non-sexual universe, and here we do have those scenes. But I think that's that's why the story behind the films is just as interesting. I think as the
Mm,
story in front. Yeah, that's it. It's completely a hands-on movie. Gil Taylor, sort of struggling with George about moving the lights.
mm,
It was this thing that everybody had their hands on it. That's the thing I really get the sense of in this book. Yes, it was divided by a continent. ILM over in
mm.
California, them shooting in London, but you really get that sense of the hands-on. And if one of those elements hadn't worked out, whether it was a performance or a set or a visual effect or the music, we wouldn't be here today talking about it all these years later.
For
And
sure.
I think you convey that really, really well in there. I was going to say as well, like whenever you make anything, whether it's a piece of artwork, piece of music, whatever, you sort of, at some point you have to stop and you have to sort of release your baby into the world and let
Mm.
it have this life of its own. Did you have a deadline in mind of when you were going to release it? Did you stick to that? Did you have to extend it?
We did have a deadline, and we managed to meet that deadline. But it took quite a long time. I think writing the script was about 6 months, not including a lifetime of reading about
Yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars and everything. And Renaud took 2 years to
2 years,
draw,
yeah.
so it's a very long process.
Mm, mm,
Especially also it was my first comic book, I had to put in place some rules, some graphic narrative rules too, and how to compose my pages to really have something coherent from beginning to end. And also, of course, I was a bit sometime not very confident in all my decisions, so I redraw some stuff at the end.
mm, mm.
The funny joke that make Laurent laugh back in the days because I redraw almost all the George noses, at some point at the end because I thought they was too big sometime or not the good curve or
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. So and actually on the second book it was more focused on the ears, whatever reason, but
Yes.
I'm very yeah, I'm very obsessed sometimes by this kind of details. And for the second book, actually, it was really more about the deadlines because we had far less time. I've done is long a bit longer, and it was only 15, 16 months of work
Right. Wow.
instead of 24. So it's
Mm, mm.
quite a big difference. So it was harder in this way. And also, that's the good point. I was more confident this time, in every way. So it was I was more efficient and I get more to the point, I guess, more quickly. Yeah,
And the second book, it was your sequel,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it was your second album, but
exactly.
but not your difficult one. Um, and with the second book, I understand it deals with Empire and Raiders at the same time because there you've got that collaboration with Spielberg. You've got Lucas again putting his life and his money on the line. What's
Yeah.
the current stage of that at the moment? You talked about having finished the artwork, but is there a release date yet?
Oh yes,
Oh, hang on, he's
it's.
leaning out of frame here for anyone listening. Renaud is leaning out of frame to.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Oh, what a great cover.
That's the question. I hopefully they will not take 2 years like the first one because it took literally 2 years. So we don't still know, but hopefully in a few months.
Great. I was
maybe
going to say when you
some
put
hints.
these babies out into the world. Oh yeah, the Stuart Fremont. But yeah, when you put these things out into the world, you kind of hope that people like you are going to enjoy them. But for you guys to have the feedback that you've had, not only from fans but from the people who were involved in making this movie. I mean, I saw pictures of you recently at Skywalker
Mm,
Ranch at Lucasfilm. Tell me about that experience. How did that come about?
Laurent, go. Go first.
Well, since the book came out, yeah, we've been incredibly lucky to get feedback from a few people who actually appear in the book, and okay, the first response we got from was from Joe Johnston and Ben Burt, which was really amazing to be able to talk to these legends. And we were invited at the ranch for a visit, and we got the whole tour with Ben Burt, with all the anecdotes, and well, it was really an out of body experience.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to the ranch as well and to Lucasfilm.
Mm,
I got invited down there after doing my podcast, and it is a surreal experience, isn't it? Being in
mm,
that environment, in that world. All right, the film wasn't created in the ranch, but there's so much history there,
yeah,
um, and just being amongst all of that stuff, all of those props and all of those like matte paintings and
yeah.
everything else. Do you think that has given you inspiration for the next volume?
I guess yes. It's not because like we cannot take so much picture, especially at the ranch, you know. So it was a
Mm-mm.
bit frustrating. I was not able like to do a lot of documentation,
Yeah,
even if there is al already quite a lot of pictures, especially of the building and and and, and the exteriors. But it was. I guess it was more in terms of mood, you know. It's really because especially in the second book, we talk a lot about the project of the ranch, the when he first go to the valley, when he buy the land, when he start the construction and the
hmm,
design, stuff like that. And it's really like his main focus actually in those years. And it's you understand that in a way, even if he want to tell the rest of the Star Wars story he's doing this also because he has this dream in his mind of this little alternative Hollywood utopia, and it's really like his dream, you know,
mm,
and everything uh, drives this. So it was important after I've seen a lot of documentation after drawing these places to go there and to really breathe the air, feel the grass and stuff like that. Even
yeah,
if, you know, we stayed like maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that.
yeah,
It feels very short anyway. And
yeah,
but I could have stayed weeks, you know, doing sketches and just you know imprint myself. But still, it was yeah, it was great to feel how peaceful also and well designed it is. You really feel like it's a perfect place to put your mind in a creative state and so probably it will help at some point when I have to make some very precise graphic decision. Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's just about sort of soaking up that atmosphere, isn't it? I
Mm.
wonder if is the book going to be for sale in the Lucasfilm shop?
It is actually, yeah, because
Fantastic.
we actually went we had a signing there, you know, for the Lucasfilm employees and ELM employees. I also went crazy at the store, as you can see, you know, it is not the only one I bought, you know, and no, it was it was amazing too because this time it was really like the people working there now and developing the new project and so they were very curious too about this piece of myth that is connected to our company, of course. And no, no, it was very nice too. It was a few amazing days to say the least, because it was like we felt, especially me, as pilgrims, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah. What about you, Laurent? How did it feel for you?
It was a surreal experience to be there, and having read and watched so many documentaries and testimonies about these places and these people, and to be there. It was really a strange experience. It was a beautiful place, the ranch, um, very calm and with so much history. And when you're there, you realize. You think about all that Lucas had to invest and the price he had to pay, not only in money but in in personal struggle to get
mm,
this done and what it meant. The dream is really very real when you're there because he worked so hard to create this place. So it was very emotional and touching to be there and to see it with my own eyes. And being at Lucasfilm, it was a very different experience, but amazing as well to see all the artists and all the people working there, and to think that the livelihood is to create this type of magic and dreams, and also to see how humble all these people were. I was
mm,
really surprised how humble they all were,
mm,
and how welcoming they were with our book.
Mm,
This
mm.
was really
Yeah.
impressive and extremely nice.
lovely, yeah. Do you know, my house is kind of adorned with, Star Wars memorabilia, some Jaws. I've got so many books, and I said to my wife the other day, in England, the tagline for Jaws 2 was just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, right? And I held up your book when I got it, and I said, just when you thought I'd got every book about Star Wars, comes another one. And it is amazing that you've managed to find something so new and something so fresh to tell, and a new way to tell that story. So there's always a new way.
There's always a new way, Jamie, as we shall
Yes.
discover. Can I ask you two a quick question? Emotionally, what were the harder things to find you couldn't get to? So you're quite good at exploring Lucas's emotional state, and it's essentially told from his perspective. But there's obviously other souls involved. So you do the relationship with Fisher and Ford, which is fabulous. But there's a whole thing with Kurtz, which
Mm.
will, be rent asunder by the time of Empire and fall apart. That whole sense of Marsha and him that will eventually spread. So what kind of emotional insight did you think you might get to, but you just had to
Mm.
leave aside by that point?
I would say we brushed on that, but and we will get into it a little bit deeper in the next book. But his relationship with his father,
Mm.
which is really interesting and important, and it always in creation always goes back to childhood, and your parents, the relationship you had with your parents. So this is really interesting and important, and hopefully we'll get deeper into that. But this is the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah. I was saying to
Yeah.
Mark before we jumped on the call that I was aware that his father had that stationery store in Modesto, but what I didn't realize is there was that seed planted there of him selling toys in the store and actually
Mm.
making money from the toys. I'd never heard that before, I don't think.
And
Again, just I don't know whether that's something you kind of projected or is that something you found out? Is that a fact? Is that
No,
something that's
no,
been
no.
discussed?
It's a fact.
Mm,
Yes, it's a fact. It's a fact. So it has been documented. It's not well known,
mm,
but you can hear about it from a few people. Yeah.
but there is a actually it's one of my favorite. It's very small, but one of my favorite piece and cases in the book. And I think, Laurent, it was a recreation in a way, because we are not quite sure it actually happened. It probably did, or maybe not exactly here. It's when they both actually going,
Oh
to
yeah,
to
into
s-
the
to
toy
s-
shop.
to
Yeah.
see a shop,
To that famous
with toys
toy
of Star
shop.
Wars, and especially this case when you can clearly see George is moved. It was important for me to really catch it well because of course we are not sure it turned out exactly this way, but and maybe George was too much as an introvert to express it this way because but actually, I made some. I've done some research and deep dive. I actually contact one of the sons of the people who were having this actual shop in San Francisco back in the days because it was a true shop and it's a family business and so I asked if I could have a picture of the shop in the 70s and very kindly answer me and send me some pictures because I wanted to at least to be it a true place in San Francisco and maybe if something like that happened it maybe happened in another cities or maybe a smaller town but anyway I wanted it to ground it in some reality and this is actually one of the thing if one day maybe we our path and George cross to ask, yeah, maybe what he liked, what he didn't, what was more touching for him to
Because he
see.
has seen it, right? He has, I
Yeah,
believe he
yeah,
has seen it. Yeah.
he has seen it. He probably have now. I think fully read it. We don't have a very specific review. We just know that when he discovered it, he was very pleased, and after that, he was still had positive feelings about it. But for sure, there is some stuff he might think it's not precise
Accurate. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
accurate
Yeah.
in his memories, which cannot be also the most reliable source in a way, his
Yeah.
own memories.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not to be so specific on what is true or not from his point of view, but more what he felt sometime. We know that the all the martial part might be not the more pleasing part for
Mm-hmm.
him to read, probably, but maybe I don't know. Maybe in a way it helped me to recollect some stuff also from that time. So it will be very interesting. I know for a fact that GR, the artist, the French artist, that it's thanks to him that the book went to George in the first place.
Oh, cool.
And we know, I know for a fact that they read it together, and GR was translating. So it
Fantastic.
was a few months ago before we provide him the translation. So Gia was reading to him the pages. So and there is video of them talking about it. So it's very good. So at some point maybe we're able to dive into this, but uh, yeah, I really love to know what he felt, especially about the pages of his childhood, for example, stuff like that. If he felt it is true to 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 what he is and what
Well,
he felt.
that's got to be the final chapter in the special edition of the book. George then reading the comic, and then you
Yeah,
can just.
maybe.
And were there any parts in the book where, or any particular scenes that you felt like you could almost make a spin-off comic from? Because there are so many stories within those films being made. There must be points where you just think, well, this alone could be a graphic novel. This little thread.
Yes, in volume two, we deal with the conception of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and in itself, that would be a great graphic novel to tell the story in details of Indiana Jones and how the movie was made, because that's an amazing story as well. So we're dealing with that in the second volume, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper in the third and last one. So. But that would have made a great graphic novel in itself,
Yeah.
definitely.
Can I just ask a question for me? I'm not going to probably include this, but is Nilo Rodis Jamiro in the second book, the designer?
No, no.
Is the Asian American artist? It is.
He's Filipino American. Yeah, yeah.
I see what he probably is in the background at some point,
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, I
but
just wanted to know because I'm going
But
to go and
yeah,
see him next month after next. I'm visiting him in Vancouver, and
because I picture him, of course, in some documentation. But to
yeah,
be fair, because that's what we said before, to be appealing to the
yeah,
general audience, we have to make some choices and sometimes focus on some.
of course, yeah.
So you have on the front, you have of course Joe Johnston and you have also Ken Ralston and Lorne Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, the true, and you have also sorry, Dennis Muren this time, which is
Yeah,
really seen, which was not quite. And we have a
Stuart
I can
Freeborn I
show
saw
you
on the
like
back. Yeah.
I will show you a little exclusivity because I listen actually your episodes with him and it was really great. So we
Thank
have
you.
a little page dedicated to those guys. You
Oh,
see,
cool.
I guess.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. John Berg and Phil Tippett,
In
and yeah,
Phil Tippett, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And also these cases was a way also to re-include their work on the first movie, you know, to present them and to teach some readers that maybe not don't know that they were also involved,
yes,
less but still involved in the first movies,
yeah. So with
and of course in
the
the
chessboard, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
exactly.
great.
So you have to make choices, of course, but when I can, when it's possible, I always try to,
but
you know,
there
to
are
match some
there are
background
plenty.
character with two people, if it's possible.
Yeah,
But I mean, one of the things you touched on there with Lucas, I mean, we're now approaching the 50th anniversary, which means Lucas is getting old. Many of the people involved in certainly the first film are long dead, and this is a thing that's now passed into history. So in a way, it's almost beyond one person's narrative control, and it's moved into the realms of both kind of folk myth and history for a period now. For anybody under 35 or something, they haven't got a clue. You know, this is the analog world. It was made in a time where Hollywood was very different. All these kind of things come into play. I wonder what your sense is, having done a trilogy of where history and filmmaking kind of merged together, where you now see this as a kind of piece of cultural history from the past.
It was interesting to try to set an historically faithful account of this story. So that was the goal, to try to say, okay, this is how it happened, uh, as faithfully as possible, to, to, to give the next generation, maybe, and the newcomers, this image of how it all went down, and to have a reference, a respectful and faithful reference to how it actually happened. That was the goal.
Hmm. And what I can add is also as an artist that spent most of his career in the background, actually. Um, Of course, I always try to push a bit Laurent to feature a bit more those guys, you know, the ELM guys, the visual artists, because uh, um, it was a way for me to pay homage to them, of course, and because well, you have a great podcast about those guys, you know, mainly, and this is really helpful to really talk to them and to hear from them. But yeah, generally the general public, they are not quite aware. You know, it's George, it's the actors, and maybe Kurt sometimes, and maybe one figure of the special effect, and that's it. And so of course we cannot feature everyone, but at least we try to be um, true to this part of the story also, yes, on the human level.
yeah, yeah. Well, Mark and I are in the early stages of embarking on a project that is related in some ways, but in a completely different medium. You'll be pleased to hear. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for, from a fan. I think you've done a fantastic job. I can't wait to read the second one and the third one, and then who knows what might happen. I'm sure there's already ideas swirling around in your head of what could come next, but we'll leave that as a tantalizing idea in people's minds rather than trying to pin you down on these things. But yeah, thanks for joining me today, and
Thank you.
thanks so much for the book. Really did enjoy it. And everybody, you can buy it now worldwide, I believe, in 20 plus languages, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Thank you, guys. Huge thanks to Laurent, Renaud, and Mark as well for joining me on the podcast. I genuinely loved Lucas Wars, and I can't recommend it highly enough. And honestly, as I said, if you're still hunting for a Christmas present or something to put on your list, particularly for somebody who thinks they already own everything Star Wars related, this is the exact sort of thing that will surprise them and make you look like you've put some real thought into it. So win-win. And while we're on the subject of Christmas gifts, if you'd like to support the podcast, what I do here on the Filmumentaries podcast, you can also gift a Patreon membership. That will directly help me keep the podcast going, making more of these deep dive conversations with the people behind the films we love and people who have made projects about the films we love. Think of it as a present to you and a present to me, the creator of this podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, just about everywhere you can hear a podcast. Check out the Filmumentaries YouTube channel too. Been putting some videos up on there recently. Still trying to get to the vital 4,000 hours of watch time when I can start to monetize it. So keep those videos rolling on YouTube. All the links you need are in the show notes, and for those in the UK, I'll leave a link to the Lucas Wars book on amazon.co.uk. Thanks so much for listening. Just one more episode before Christmas on the 4th Tuesday of December. Until then, have a great time frantically buying presents for your loved ones, as I'm about to do. And I'll see you here for the next episode of the Filmumentaries podcast.